At my engagement party, I stood smiling in front of family and friends until my sister raised her glass and revealed a secret I had trusted her with, and the laughter and whispers that followed left me humiliated in a way I will never forget. I was standing there in my rented tux, Sarah's engagement ring catching the light on her finger, when my sister Emma stood with her champagne glass. I actually smiled at her. I thought she was going to say something sweet about how happy she was for us, maybe embarrass me with a childhood story. Instead, she looked right at me with this cold expression I'd never seen before. "Before we toast the happy couple," Emma said, her voice carrying across our parents' backyard where 80 of our closest friends and family had gathered, "I think everyone should know what kind of man my brother really is." My stomach dropped. Sarah looked confused, still holding my hand. I knew exactly what was coming, and there was nowhere to run. 3 months ago, Jake called me crying because he'd been having an affair with his coworker Melissa for 6 weeks. He begged me not to tell Sarah because he said it was over and he loved her too much to lose her. The silence was deafening. Sarah's hand went limp in mine. My mom gasped. My dad's face turned red with rage. But Emma wasn't done. He made me promise to keep his secret while Sarah planned this whole engagement party, while she picked out her dress, while she talked about their future kids. So here's my toast to the bride who deserves so much better, and to my brother who's about to learn what betrayal feels like. The thing is, I had been having an affair with Melissa. It started so stupidly, so predictably. Sarah and I had been together for 4 years, living together for 2. We'd fallen into this routine where we barely talked, just scrolled our phones in bed, ordered takeout, watched Netflix. The spark felt gone, but I was too much of a coward to address it. Melissa was new to our marketing team, fresh out of college, all energy and ambition. She laughed at my jokes, asked my opinion on campaigns, stayed late when I stayed late. When she suggested drinks after a particularly stressful project, I told it was just colleagues unwinding. But I knew it wasn't just colleagues when I started deleting texts. When I started coming home later. When I started comparing Sarah to Melissa in my head, finding Sarah lacking in ways that weren't fair or true. The affair lasted 6 weeks. 6 weeks of hotel rooms and lies and the sick thrill of having a secret. 6 weeks of telling I wasn't really cheating because we mostly just talked and kissed, even though we both knew where it was heading. I ended it when Melissa started talking about me leaving Sarah. That's when reality hit. I didn't want to leave Sarah. I wanted to marry her. I loved her. I just been too unselfish to remember that while I was chasing the high of someone new wanting me. So I called Emma, sobbing, and told her everything. I begged her to help me figure out how to make it right without destroying Sarah. Emma listened, said she needed time to process, and told me not to do anything rash. I thought she meant she needed time to forgive me. I didn't realize she was planning this. Now Sarah was staring at me with tears in her eyes, her engagement ring suddenly looking foreign on her finger. "Is it true?" she whispered. I could have denied it. I could have said Emma was lying, was jealous, was trying to our day. But looking at Sarah's face, at the trust that was already dying in her eyes, I couldn't lie anymore. "Yes. It's true." Sarah took off her ring and at my feet. The sound it made hitting the patio stones was somehow louder than all the gasp and whispers around us. That was the moment my split into before and after. Before I was Jake who made mistakes but could fix them. After I became Jake who betrayed the woman he loved in front of everyone who mattered to both of us. Sarah walked out of her own engagement party. Her maid of honor followed. Me, a look that could have melted steel. One by one, people started leaving. Some wouldn't even look at me. Others stared like I was something they'd found on their shoe. My dad was the last to leave. "I raised better than this," he said, and walked away. Emma was still standing there, glass in hand. "Made me complicit in lies for 3 months," she said. "No can deal with the truth." I stood alone in that backyard surrounded by engagement party decorations and abandoned champagne glasses, holding Sarah's ring, realizing I had just lost everything that mattered for something that meant nothing. The worst part? I thought the humiliation was the punishment. I had no idea the real consequences were just beginning. Sarah moved out the next day while I was at work. She didn't just take her stuff, she took everything that made our apartment feel like home. The photos, the plants she'd nursed back to health, the throw pillows she'd spent hours picking out, even the coffee maker we'd bought together. She left the furniture but took all that out of the place. She also left a note: "Don't contact me. Don't try to explain, don't send friends to convince me to forgive. What we had is dead," and killed it. I called her anyway, texted, showed at her new place as she was staying with her sister. She blocked my number, changed her social media password, made it clear she meant what she said. Work became, Melissa had quit the week after our affair ended, but the gossip about why she left started making sense to people after the engagement party story spread. And it did spread. Sarah's best friend made sure everyone knew exactly what happened. By Monday morning, I was walking into an office where everyone knew I was a cheater. My boss called me into his office. "I don't care about personal," he said. "When it affects team morale and our company's reputation, it becomes my problem." We're being transferred to the Portland office. Portland. 3,000 miles from everyone I knew, everyone who looked at me with disgust. It felt like exile, and I guess it was. I had 2 weeks to pack my. Sarah still wouldn't see me, but her sister agreed to meet me at a coffee shop to return my grandmother's necklace that Sarah had been wearing to the engagement party. She wanted to know she's not keeping anything that reminds her of her sister said, sliding the jewelry box across the table, including the memories. "How is she?" I asked. "Broken. She can't sleep, can't eat. Keeps asking what was wrong with her that needed someone else." Her sister's eyes were blazing. "She actually thinks it's her fault somehow. That's what did to her." Made the most loving, trusting person I know believe she wasn't enough. I tried to explain that it wasn't about Sarah, that she was perfect, that I was just in who way the best thing in is for no good reason. "Don't dare try to make feel better by telling me how much love her," she snapped. "If loved her, wouldn't have cheated. If loved her, would have talked to her instead of running to another woman. Don't get to love someone and destroy them at the same time." She was right. I had destroyed Sarah. Not just her, destroyed her. The confident, radiant woman who used to laugh at my jokes and believe in our future was gone, replaced by someone who questioned her own worth because of what I did. Moving to Portland was like moving to a different planet. I knew no one, had no friends, spent my evenings alone in a studio apartment that smelled like the previous tenant's cigarettes, scrolling through Sarah's social media from accounts she hadn't blocked yet. She was trying to move on. Posted pictures with friends, quotes about healing and self-love, updates about a pottery class she'd started. But I could see the sadness in her eyes even in photos. The way her smile looked forced. How she never posted pictures alone anymore, like she was afraid of being by herself with her thoughts. 3 months after Portland, I found out through mutual friends that Sarah had started therapy. Not couples therapy to work on us, but individual therapy to deal with the trust issues and self-doubt I'd created. She was paying money she couldn't afford to fix damage I had caused. That's when the depression really hit. Not the dramatic movie version depression where lie in bed dramatically. The gray empty kind where go through the motions of living but nothing matters anymore. Food tastes like cardboard, sleep becomes escape. Work becomes something to endure until can go home and feel nothing. I started drinking more. Not enough to call it a problem, but enough to shut off the voice in my head replaying every moment of those 6 weeks with Melissa, every lie I told, every time I came home to Sarah and let her kiss me with lips that had kissed someone else. My parents called once a week out of obligation, not love. They'd ask how work was going, if I was eating enough surface level stuff. They never asked if I was okay or when I might visit. Emma had completely contact. The family group chat continued without me. 6 months in Portland. I ran into someone from college at a bar. Tom, who'd always been a good guy, someone I'd partied with, but stayed in touch with only through social media. Jake. Holy man, what are doing in Portland? He seemed genuinely happy to see me, and I felt pathetically grateful for any human connection. We had a few beers caught on workin'. It felt normal for the first time in months. Then he asked about Sarah. We broke. I said hoping he'd let it go. That's too bad. Guys seemed perfect together. What happened? I could have lied. Could have said we grew apart, wanted different things, any of the generic breakup explanations people accept without questions. Instead, maybe because I was lonely or just tired of carrying the secret, I told him the truth. His face changed completely. The warmth disappeared. Keyed on Sarah. Sarah used to bake cookies for everyone's birthday. Sarah who organized that fundraiser for friends' medical bills. Yeah, I said. I know how it sounds. It sounds like a piece of, he said and left money on the bar for his drinks. Don't contact me again. Even in Portland, 3,000 miles from home, my reputation followed me. Tom knew people who knew people. Within a month, the few casual acquaintances I'd started making knew my story. I became the guy don't trust around girlfriend. The cautionary tale women tell each other. The loneliness was consuming. I'd never realized how much of my identity was tied in being part of a couple, being trusted, being seen as a good guy. Now I was none of those things, and I didn't know who I was supposed to be instead. A year after the engagement party, I found out Sarah was dating someone new. A mutual friend posted a photo of a group dinner, and there was Sarah, laughing genuinely for the first time in any photo I'd seen since that night. She was sitting next to a guy with kind eyes and an easy smile, and she looked happy. Actually happy, not performing happiness. I should have been glad she was healing, moving on, finding joy again. Instead, I felt like I was dying. She'd replace me. Found someone who could give her what I couldn't or wouldn't: loyalty, honesty, peace of mind. That night I called Emma for the first time since the engagement party. She didn't answer, but I left a voicemail. I know me, I said. I know I deserve it. But I need to know that we're right to tell everyone. Sarah deserved to know the truth, even if it destroyed everything. I could take it all back. Not just the affair, but the person I became who was capable of having one. I could give her back the trust I stole, the confidence I shattered, the future I ruined. I'm so sorry, for everything. She never called back. But a week later, I got a text. Sorry doesn't fix what broke, and can't take back who chose to be. She was right. I couldn't take back who I chose to be. And now I had to live as that person forever, watching from 3,000 miles away as the woman I loved learned to be happy without me. 2 years after Portland, I thought I'd hit rock bottom. I was wrong. Rock bottom was getting the wedding invitation. It came to my parents' house, forwarded to my Portland address in my mother's handwriting. Sarah Elizabeth Morrison and David Andrew Chen, June 15th. The same venue where we'd planned to get married. I stared at that invitation for an hour. Sarah was getting married. To David, the man with kind eyes from the photos. She'd moved on completely, built anew, found someone who could love her the way she deserved to be loved. The worst part was the invitation itself was beautiful, elegant, everything Sarah had always dreamed of. We'd looked at similar designs together when we were planning our wedding that never happened. Apparently she'd kept those dreams, just found someone more worthy to share them with. I called in sick to work and spent the day drinking and scrolling through Sarah's social media from my accounts. She'd unblocked my real name months ago, confident enough in her healing that I was no longer to her peace. Her post showed a woman in love, genuinely happy, planning a future with someone she trusted completely. The engagement photos were gorgeous. Sarah and David hiking, laughing, looking at each other like they were the only two people in the world. There was a lightness in her eyes I'd never seen when she was with me, even in our best times. This man brought out a joy in her that I never could. I wanted him to find flaws to convince he wasn't good enough for her. But everything about him screamed decency. He was a teacher, volunteered with kids, posted thoughtful things about social justice, loved hiking and cooking and all the things Sarah loved. He was everything I pretended to be but never actually was. The wedding was 3 months away. I had 3 months to decide if I was going to by following every detail or try to move on with my. I chose. I watched her bridal shower through her friends' posts. Saw her trying on wedding dresses in her sister's stories. Watched her joy and excitement as she planned the I'd thrown away. A month before the wedding I broke down and called my mother. JK, is everything okay? She sounded worried, and I realized I only called when something was wrong anymore. Did get invited to Sarah's wedding? I asked. Long pause. Yes, she said carefully. Going. Another pause. Father and I discussed it. Sarah was part of our family for 4 years. We love her. We're going to the ceremony to support her. Not me. Or not thinking about how this might me. Jakey, my mother's voice was tired. We think about how it must be all the time. But Sarah didn't destroy a 4-year relationship and in front of everyone did that to her. She deserves our support. Not. She was right but it didn't less. My own parents were choosing my ex-fiancé over me. They'd rather celebrate her happiness than protect my feelings. We'll tell her I said congratulations. I asked. No. My mother said firmly. She's moved on. Need to let her. That night I decided I wasn't going to the wedding, obviously, but I was going to be in town. I was gonna fly back home and spend the weekend remembering what I'd lost, saying goodbye to the I'd destroyed. I booked the flight, took time off work, reserved a hotel room across town from the wedding venue, far enough away that I wouldn't accidentally run into anyone. The day of the wedding, I drove past the venue on my way to, I don't know where. I just needed to see it. Needed to see that I could have had if I'd been a better man. The parking lot was full of cars I recognized, my parents' sedan, my college friends' cars. The entire I'd been exiled from was inside that building, celebrating Sarah's happiness. I parked across the street and watched people walking in. Everyone looked so happy, so dressed, so excited to witness true love. They were celebrating the fact that Sarah had found someone worthy of her, someone who would never betray her trust or break her heart. Then I saw Emma, my sister, wearing a navy blue dress that looked elegant and expensive, walking with a man I didn't recognize. Her boyfriend, probably. The she was building while refusing to speak to me. She looked beautiful and happy and completely at peace with the decision to me out of her world. She'd rather attend my ex-fiancé's wedding than have a relationship with her own brother. As I sat there in my rental car, watching my former continue without me, I realized the full scope of what I'd lost. It wasn't just Sarah. It wasn't just our relationship. I'd lost my family, my friends, my reputation, my sense of self. I'd lost the right to be part of joy and celebration and love. I drove back to my hotel and spent the evening looking at wedding photos posted by guests. Sarah looked radiant, glowing, more beautiful than I'd ever seen her. David looked at her like she was a miracle he couldn't believe he'd been blessed with. In all the photos she looked free. Free from the doubt and insecurity I'd planted in her. Free from the fear of betrayal. Free from the weight of loving someone who wasn't worthy of that love. The next morning, I flew back to Portland. I didn't try to see anyone, didn't attempt to reconcile with my family or old friends. I just went back to my exile and tried to figure out how to live with the choices I'd made. 3 years later, I found out Sarah was pregnant. The announcement photo showed her and David holding ultrasound pictures, beaming with joy. She was going to be a mother. David was going to be a father. They were creating new together, building the family she'd always wanted. I thought about the conversations we used to have about kids, how many we wanted, what we'd name them, how we'd raise them. Sarah had always said she wanted our children to grow knowing they were deeply loved, and that their parents' love for each other was unshakable. Now she was having that with someone else. Someone who would never cheat on her, never betray her trust, never make their children wonder if love was something that could be destroyed by selfishness and lies. I realized I was crying. Sitting alone in my empty apartment in Portland, crying for the children I would never have with the woman I'd loved and destroyed. Crying for the family photo that would never exist. Crying for the legacy of pain I'd created instead of the legacy of love we could have built together. That's when I finally understood the true cost of betrayal. It's not just the relationship destroy, it's every relationship, every moment of joy, every possibility for connection that dies with it. It's becoming the kind of person people protect their loved ones from. It's watching the away flourish without while learn to exist in the wasteland of own making. Sarah's baby was born healthy and beautiful. I saw the photos through friends of friends, the proud grandparents including my own parents, who sent flowers, the aunts and uncles celebrating new. I was 41 years old, alone in a city where no one really knew me, watching the woman I'd loved create the perfect with someone who deserved her. My betrayal had cost me everything, and it would keep costing me everything for the rest of my. Because this is what happens when cheat don't just lose what had, lose what could have had, and spend forever knowing that every moment of happiness that could have been yours is living in someone else's reality instead. The trust break doesn't grow back, the person betrayed doesn't forget, and the man become when choose betrayal as the man are forever someone no one trusts. No one chooses, no one loves the way loved the woman whose heart broke.